So, unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of years, you've probably seen a collection of a bunch of very uniquely designed headbands that pop up on a bunch of different paintball BSTs and specific groups catering to a community of people who like to spend a ton of money on something as simple as headbands. When you're playing a sport like paintball, there's a lot of things that you need to be able to go out on the field and play. And while headbands aren't necessarily something that's required, I would venture to guess that probably over 90% of people prefer to have one on when they go out on the field. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits to them. Doubling them up, or some of them that have padding in them, help protect your forehead, help you get bounces. Most of them have some kind of terry cloth or like microfiber sewn inside to help with sweat dripping down into your eyes and face while you got your mask on. But for some people, what's more important than that is the style that comes along with it. It gives you an opportunity to be unique, express yourself. In a sport like speedball, it's all about expression. It's not like the old school days where everyone has to wear camo jumpsuits to go run around the woods and hide themselves. You can do and look however you want. But why in the world are people shelling out hundreds and hundreds, and at the beginning of it all, even thousands of dollars for just simple strips of fabric that you could probably get one just as good for a fraction of the price? But to really understand why it is exactly that people are willing to shell out all this for Hormesis, you first got to take a look at, who's behind it and not so much what it's about. I'm sure if you clicked on this video, this isn't any news to you. Hormesis is run by Oliver Lang and Alex Frazee, two of the most notable and recognizable pro players in the world of paintball. I don't need to give any kind of background or history or anything like that. I'm pretty sure most people who are clicking on this video know exactly who I'm talking about. So, needless to say, anything that these guys were going to make was probably going to sell pretty well, have a lot of eyes on it, and be pretty popular within the scene. But something that you don't always see when a pro player or a notable team comes out and starts making their own merchandise or making their own playing gear is the amount of dedication that people are willing to dive into to be able to acquire as many pieces of it as they can. And for all the people asking why, it really doesn't boil down to anything too complex. Collector culture is just not for everybody. Some people are okay with minimalism. People are okay with just owning their one set of paintball gear, one full gun setup, one full, outfit. They don't need to have a bazillion JT mask parts. They're fine with finding one mask that works for them and keeping it. They're fine with having one or two pairs of sneakers in their collection to, just kind of a nicer pair to go out in, and another pair to, go outside and mow the lawn in. For a lot of people, just having what they need is enough. But if you're someone like me, it's really hard to, contain myself. I've collected tons of things throughout my life, and right now I collect all kinds of wacky stuff like Raver jeans from the 90s, cats. Naturally, I collect a bunch of JT mask parts as well. But the thing that I can relate to most when it comes to Hormesis is probably my addiction to Supreme that I had a few years ago. And for those of you who don't know what that is, basically it's a skate shop in New York that then expanded into the world of streetwear, and now they have stores all over the world, drops every single week in season, with stuff selling out instantly, some stuff selling for an exorbitant amount above its original retail price. And I was really hooked on that at a time in my life when I probably shouldn't have been. And I see a lot of the person that I was back then in the guys who are collecting Hormesis now. There's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between the general just sneakerhead, hype beast community and the Hormesis community. And with all this stuff, there's a lot of people who don't necessarily buy into the hype of it all. They may just generally like just the designs or the story behind it. But for a lot of people, the hype definitely stems from the difficulty to get this stuff. Originally, Hormesis headbands were super, super limited. It wasn't like something that you could just, hop on the website whenever you wanted one and just grab one and they just kept inventory. You had to keep your ear to the ground. You had to get secret codes. You would have to go on the website where they'd have the headbands marked up for a crazy price, enter in the secret code that you would get however you needed to get it that week, and then it would knock the price down to the reasonable price that you would then buy it at. And they were super limited, so most of the people who were trying to get them couldn't get them. But for a lot of people, they wanted them so badly because it was something that was so rare and hard to get and limited that they were willing to pay the crazy amount of money extra to be able to get it from the people who could get it. The chase was a huge part of it for me when I was back into buying Supreme. Basically, I was working a factory job at the time, and every time there was a drop on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock, I was basically buying stuff every single week if I could. I would sneak off and do like little bathroom breaks, right before the drop, sit in the stall by myself, and just sit there and just refresh the webpage over and over and over and over again, and then try to get whatever I could. And unfortunately, at this time of my life, I was not in a financial position to be doing that, but I couldn't help it. Like, I thought the stuff was cool. I wanted to have a cool collection. I saw people with shelves full of stuff with those red Supreme logos all over it, and I wanted to have that too. I wanted people to see, this cool collection of things that I thought it was cool and appreciate them in the same way that I did. And this is something that I kind of worry about for a lot of people I see in the Hormesis community group. I joined it to see what was kind of going on, just kind of see what the vibe was like. And I've seen people joke around about how, they like got a new band on the drop that they wanted it, but now they have to ask their mom and dad for help with their rent. But take it from me, as someone who racked up a whole bunch of credit card debt just to get some cool t-shirts and sneakers and stuff, just because I thought it was cool and that I thought I really, really needed. If you're not in a financial position to be buying Hormesis, please don't. I mean, God forbid. Later on, if you have some stuff that you could trade, if you can always hit on another drop when you can afford it and try and trade for something, or maybe the price goes down. I don't know. But it's never worth actually putting yourself in a bad financial situation over stuff. What's really cool about it, though, is that there's a story behind everything. All these different series and different symbols embroidered on the headbands, whether they're highlighting specific players or mindsets or affirmations. Recently, they dropped a line called the Community Kings, where they actually took people from the Hormesis community that they saw as valuable people, who they saw as leaders in the community, and gave them a chance to have a band named after them. But one of the great things that I see about this community that I don't see in the general hype beast world is the amount of generosity and positivity that this little brand, that this little community has brought about in the sport of paintball. I see so many pictures of guys wearing them under their hard hats at work, incorporating them into their uniform with other sports. For a lot of people, this is more than just a headband company or another paintball apparel company. There's a story behind it that's really resonated with them. It's encouraged a lot of positivity in their life. It's exactly like how most of us take our teammates or people that we meet from the field and turn them into some of the closest friends that we have outside of the sport. If you've watched some of my previous content, I'm sure you could probably tell that kind of the vibe and the message that I'm trying to get across in, my attempt to help grow the sport is that, being positive, helping each other, being, good role models, setting good examples for everybody out on the field is something that we all need to be able to take this sport to the level that we want it to get to. And while I do see people who like to kind of, make jokes about Hormesis and the people who are obsessed with it outside of the community, within it, I see nothing but love for everybody. Now, personally, I've never actually bought anything Hormesis. Not to say that I don't like it. I think there's a lot of great designs. A lot of the headbands look sick. I think some of the attire, some of the jogger pants and like practice jerseys and stuff look super cool. I love how they've been able to incorporate a really unique style of, dyeing fabrics from Indonesia to really, create like a really nice, unique, original product, which is something that I feel like we probably haven't seen in the paintball world in a while. But I personally can't justify that price tag for something as simple as a headband. Not saying that it's not worth it to someone else, and if it's worth it to you, by all means, go crazy. And you're probably looking at me right now and thinking, well, if you don't buy Hormesis, what's that on your forehead, dude? Which brings me to probably one of the best things about the community, in my opinion, is the amount of generosity that I've seen. I got this headband from a very close friend of mine, another media guy named Dane Hawkins. He was gifted a surprise box full of Hormesis stuff. I think he said Alex Fragi sent it to him. But yeah, it had a bunch of bands in it, and he was basically told, hey, here's some bands, please pass them out to some of your friends, help kind of, spread some love around, show some people some love. And when he gave this to me, or when he told me he was going to give it to me, he messaged me and told me and said, and when he messaged me to tell me that he was going to give it to me the next time I saw him, He told me over these past couple years, he's really appreciated and really valued the friendship that we've been able to build. He was glad to be able to call me a close friend, and he wanted to give me this headband to, help kind of show that and, let me know that he, cares about me like that. So this band isn't something that I'm ever going to try and sell. It's something that I'm never going to try and trade away or, try to pass off or anything. It's never going to be just forgotten at the bottom of my gear bag. It's something special to me now, and it's a representation of one of many, awesome friendships that I've made since I've been a part of this sport. I see people in the community giving these things away to people left and right. Every time there's a big event, I feel like there's at least a couple of posts in the community group with videos of, people giving bands away to young guns who showed a lot of, hard work and showed a lot of effort in the events. I see people giving them away to coaches, to people who brought them into the sport. I mean, I remember telling one of my buddies that Dane was going to give me my first Hormesis headband, and he actually texted me back super angry because he's just like, someone beat me to it. Brian, even though you weren't able to give me my first crown, I still appreciate the crap out of you. But it's also been kind of crazy to see because it seems like the generosity and positivity that the Hormesis community has created is actually spread outside of its own community. So I don't really buy headbands in general. I had a couple just kind of simple ones that I bought when I was newer in the media game with my logo on it. And just kind of since this last fall, though, my collection has kind of exploded and I haven't paid for a single one. They've all been gifts from really close friends. So aside from this Hormesis one, I recently got this one from my buddy Joe Bredlow. It's from Good Time Boys. This thing's pretty sick. Really, really heavy weight. He sent this to me literally just because it matched one of my recent JT mask builds, and he's just like, yeah, man, what's your address? I want to send you something cool. And this showed up in the mail, and I absolutely love this band. A few months ago, I got married, and before that, I had a little bachelor party at my local field with my team and a handful of other players that, I wanted to come out and celebrate with me. And some of you may recognize the name Jared Garrison. I know he's pretty active in a lot of the JT groups, but he actually surprised me with this band here. It's from Sacred Vibes, who's a player himself. I've done media for him a few times. Awesome dude. He makes really awesome headbands. And Jared's surprised me with this one for my bachelor party. And yeah, I absolutely love the design on this one. And yeah, this is gonna mean a lot to me for a long time, just like all these other ones. And then probably the most unique band in my collection recently is this one right here. One of my friends, he makes headbands with his mom, who she does a lot of really cool Japanese indigo dyeing and stuff like that. But I actually found this wool Burberry bathrobe at Goodwill for $5. Had some holes in it, had some tears, so it was only $5. But I figured, man, you could probably make a bunch of cool headbands out of this. So I gave it to him, and he made me this one. So it's got I just told him, I'm like, just make sure the one you make for me has the tag on it. I really like how thick this one is, and since it's wool, it's actually pretty warm. He gave this to me at the first event for MSXL this year. It actually got really, really cold. So being able to wrap a wool headband around my ears, really helped out. And I'll probably be wearing this in the colder weather months later this year for sure. Now, another thing that's kind of popped up more recently that I'm super excited about is a way that the Hormesis team is bringing a new and exciting way for us to watch paintball. So they announced the 1v1 Elite Tour series. I forget the exact name, but after recently listening to the Play the Game podcast featuring Oliver Lang, where he was talking about the 1v1 tour that's coming up, I've just everything that he was talking about it and all the great ideas that they had to really just encourage like a new way for people to be able to get involved in the higher levels of paintball got me hyped. And before I chat about it, I just want to let you guys know the first tour stop is actually going to be at Level Up Sports in Columbus, Ohio. That's about an hour and a half away from me, so I'm super excited. I'm definitely going to be up there for that weekend. If you're out there, please feel free, if you see me walking around, say what's up. I'd love to shake some hands, meet some new faces. I'll have some goodies with me that I'll be passing out to everybody. If you're planning on going to the Level Up event, love to see you there. If you haven't listened to the episode, I'll put a link to it down in the description below. Just that way you can, if you're interested in hearing more details about it and kind of hear it from the horse's mouth exactly what their intentions are with it, please feel free to, take some time to go watch that. But essentially what they're doing is they've created, a small layout that they said fits on the size of a tennis court, which is another idea. How many, empty, unused tennis courts are there across America that could potentially turn into, 1v1 paintball courts for, this type of format? But the best thing about it is the layout is that it's really not designed to be a paint sale. It's not designed, to try and, be super hyper aggressive or, super, super slow control play. There's no other, kind of financial motive behind that kind of layout. It's basically just designed to, put two people on the field and give them the ability to play some paintball. And the format itself sounds really great. I mean, the joust format is awesome. Being able to just take a handful of people who, come from different areas, different teams, different, backgrounds in the sport, and being able to have someone who necessarily isn't a player themselves be a general and be able to kind of, take this roster of all these different players of shapes and sizes and skill levels and be able to actually kind of, come up with strategies and figure out a way to best utilize all these players to lead their team to victory. And these teams could potentially be huge. These joust teams could be anywhere from 20 to 100 people each. And with it being 1v1, it's not going to take all day long. I'm sure we've all, had events where there's huge breaks in between matches and super slow controlled play and, points going into X-ball and overtime and just all this stuff. And then it gets dark before, you even get to the last point. You're exhausted. You're tired. You got a 3-hour drive home and you just want to leave. This is going to be quick, exciting, fun to watch paintball. And I'm sure for the players, it's going to be an absolute blast to be able to play it. And along with it, they're also launching an app platform that has a built-in time clock. It has a built-in scorekeeper. And what I think the best thing about it is the fact that it's going to be able to allow you to have your own player profile. PB Leagues doesn't actually, tell the world who you are as a player. It doesn't tell people if you're getting out there every weekend. It doesn't tell people, are you getting around? Are you trying to, how are you trying to grow in paintball? It just shows what events you've played, some people that you've played with, and an arbitrary ranking that, let's be honest, your divisional ranking doesn't always represent who you are as a player accurately. But with these 1v1s, it's really going to show, who's out at their fields every weekend, who's out there making challenges and, playing matches and trying to rack up as many points as they can, who's actually trying to show out and be someone in this sport. And then coaches or team owners who, probably would have never heard about some of these guys otherwise are going to be able to go on there and see, hey, is this someone we want to fly out? Hey, should we, try this guy out for a weekend? Hey, we need to pick up some people for, NXL coming up for our semi-pro line. Who are some people that we could potentially have? Because for me living in Cincinnati, we've got a couple fields. One of them's, decent size. And the one that I personally play out is not that big at all. There's not lots of eyes on us. There's no, semi-pro teams around here who's out scouting. I mean, pretty much all that's going on here in Ohio is, what's going on up at Level Up every weekend in Columbus. Now, I'm sure there's still always going to be people who are going to look at the pictures of people with tens of thousands of dollars worth of headbands. Some of them, never taken out of the box, never ever gonna see the field, just sitting in a collection somewhere, not being used the way they were intended. But when you look at the positivity that Hormesis has created, not only in its own community, but, infected the rest of the sport with as well, and seeing how just selling some soft goods has created a whole new format for paintball that it really needs, I'm really glad that Hormesis is around. I'm really glad that I can see the ways that they're actively growing the sport. And they've definitely inspired me to, take what I've been doing with my media and the merchandise that I've started making and, going forward with some of the stuff that I make, I really want to put a story behind it. I really want it to mean something, and I want it to mean something to the people that wear it. Now, if you don't want to shell out the money for Hormesis, if you don't want to have to deal with the chase and the drops, you don't want to deal with negotiating the gray market, there's a lot of great makers out there making all kinds of awesome stuff that you can support. If there's any cool headband makers that you know, I encourage you, please shout them out in the comments, links to their social medias, where you can find their stuff. For anyone who's like me and maybe doesn't want to dish out the money for Hormesis, there's a lot of other great options and a lot of other guys making really cool stuff, putting a lot of heart and soul into, their craft and making a way for themselves to be able to afford to play this crazy expensive sport or hobby or whatever it is to you. But everyone's just trying to make it out here and have a great time. I'm really excited to see what this 1v1 tour is going to do for the sport. And I'm really hoping that I get to, share that excitement and get to watch it with some of you guys while I'm out there. Thanks for watching.